Welcome back. We wanted to share an inspiring story with you on this Independence Day Eve. It's about a New Rochelle woman named Lucinda Cross, who turned her life around and is now helping others do the same. Cross was 18 and was living in the projects when she got involved in a Nigerian drug ring. She wound up spending 4.5 years behind bars, but after she got out, she managed to finish college, start a business, and she even received a Lifetime Achievement Award from President Barack Obama. Our senior political producer, Karen McBride, joins us now with more. Karen?
Thank you, Andrew. Lucinda didn't waste her time while she was doing hard time. After seeing how brutal prison can be, she turned to vision boards to help get through it and picture a future for herself. And now she's turned that into a business called Activate Worldwide. I recently sat down with Lucinda and we spoke about her journey. Lucinda, take us back to the mid to late 90s. You were living with your mom in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. You were getting your little brothers ready for school. Mm-hmm. What happened?
FBI knocks on my door. Over 24 of them, it seems like. And they're banging and they're telling me that they're asking, "Are you Lucinda Cross?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Okay, we're the FBI and we need to take you in for questioning." And that was the beginning of that end of the road that I was on.
And you were sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, but before we talk about that period, which was a transformational period for you, let's go back to what led you here. Now, you were very focused, again, you were living home with your mom, you were very focused on your education.
Yes.
You were going to Iona College.
Yes.
And you talked about feeling a culture shock.
Yes. So I was born and raised in Gun Hill Projects in the Bronx, the oldest of 4. And so all of the women in my family went to college, and so that was only right for me to follow suit. So I was going there to be a lawyer, not knowing I would need one. But it was different for me going to Iona College. Going there, I didn't see any people who kind of looked like me or even were in my income bracket, and I can tell. I couldn't afford the books, so I'm photocopying pages. I didn't have, everybody had credit cards, we're driving to school. I'm busing it from my part-time job to make it there, and so it was tough, and I really didn't feel like I belonged.
And then something came up. You met someone, and there was a potential there to make some really good money. Talk about that.
So one of my part-time jobs, I was introduced to their spouse, and they said, "Listen, if you travel across country, pick up a suitcase, drop off a suitcase, don't ask any questions, you can get $10,000. So to me, I was like, what? $10,000 like cash? Yes. And so before that, it was taking me shopping. It was putting cash in my hand to give me assurance and trust and helping me to get my passport, and now picking me up and I'm driving around in this fancy car and I have cash in my pocket. So school wasn't a priority at this time. So I said yes to the opportunity, and when it was time for me to travel, I did. Now, traveling to Thailand was the first trip. I never been out of New York City, not as far as Coney Island. So for me, it was out of desperation. And I really didn't even think about the consequences. I just wanted the money at the end.
Well, you knew things weren't on the up and up, but you didn't want to know the details about it.
I didn't want to know the details.
And how did you stay cool with this?
You know, I was told to play a part, and it was ironic that it was a part that I've always wanted to play in life. One of my dreams when I was growing up, I said I wanted to be a model. And when I went to modeling school, there again, culture shock. I didn't have the right fit. I didn't have the right look. I was too short, and so I didn't fit in. And so to hear that all we need you to do is play like you're a model. At this point, I'm in college, I'm slim, I'm trim, I'm gorgeous. And so it just fit. And so I said, oh, I can do this.
And this was big money. Before you knew it, you had $100,000.
This was big money. And I made several trips after that and eventually dropped out of college.
And then fast forward to the FBI raid.
Then fast forward to the FBI knocking on my door.
And so you were sentenced to 5 years in federal prison.
Yes.
And that was obviously a rough time for you. You were assaulted there by people who, ironically, were there to protect you.
Absolutely. So out of that 5, I served about 4, a little over 4. And inside, it was horrible because I waited almost 2 years before I even got sentenced. So inside of MCC Chicago, that's where the abuse was happening from the authorities. Did I ever bring it up? No.
You mentioned to keep yourself sane, you started with vision boards, and this came from your mom.
Yes. Starting at 8 years old, my mother, she was in college for psychology. She has a master's in psychology. And she always believed in creative visualization, and vision boards was a part of it. She always said, Lucinda, you don't have to look at where you are to decide where you're going. You know, don't think about what you have and what you don't have, and dream big. And so that was a part of my life. So even inside of prison, once I was sentenced and sent to do my time, I picked that vision board right back up, and I always started journaling. She always told me to write. I always started journaling, but the vision boards was key because it helped me to see beyond where I was at and have hope.
Well, talk about your vision boards now, what you do with those with your company.
So with the vision boards, one, looking to get them into as many reentry centers as possible, but I've been doing them with women who have a dream and a passion, and they're like, well, how do I get started? I have these goals. And so with the vision boards, I help them. We have career boards and college boards for students in college, because that's where I started from. You know, if I had a plan and was able to see that plan and stay focused, I think that would have supported me to kind of make a different decision.
You recently keynoted the Westchester Youth Shelter's annual events, and you're involved with that organization. Could you talk a little bit about what they do? Because it sounds like their goal is very similar to what you're passionate about people deserving a second chance.
Yes. So with the Youth Shelter of Westchester, they're providing an alternative for these young men. Instead of going to prison, giving them programs and housing to change their atmosphere, to change their mindset, to educate them. And these young men are walking away with they're going to college, they're getting careers, vocational training, and that's what I love. And they're thinking about expanding. Hopefully, this was a big talk for something for the women, and that's what I'm passionate about, the young girls, preventing them from going through what I had to go through and providing them programs instead of prison.
And how does it feel for you knowing where you started with the vision boards to where you are today and inspiring so many people?
I would never think that scissors and glue could take me so far. But it's also the message. The women that I constantly hear, they're looking for authenticity. They're not looking for perfect Patty. They're looking for somebody who can relate to them, to say, I've made some bad decisions in my life, but I'm not allowing that to dictate my future.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Terrific story, Karen. Thank you. Up next, we head back to Lower Manhattan for the federal corruption trial of Dean Skelos. After the break, we get a report from the courthouse.